Man, I just love the game of cribbage. I am on fire. I am going to win this game. Everything's awesome. All right. Let's see what we got here. What's the deal? Oh, yeah. What is this bull? Hey, everyone. Zulwarnx here from ZulwarnGames. I am a permanent student of the game of cribbage on a mission to get better every day. Today's video was inspired by Reddit user Philo2222, who posted this. What the French fries? Can there be a worse hand? All right, now I don't know about you, but yes, I read that in Chandler Bing's voice from the show Friends.
Could I be more sorry?
Anyway, he posted the aforementioned curse with this hand, and as you can quickly see, it's crap. It's just garbage, isn't it? Or is it? Yes, it is bad, but no hand is without hope. In today's video, we're going to show you just how to take a zero hand from cribbage and make it into something better, maybe with, a little bit of luck and these tips. So, let's do it. Step 0, check for flushes. Might seem like it's obvious, but if you have a zero hand, just double check that you don't have any flushes. Sometimes it'll slip right by you. If you keep 4 cards in your hand of the same suit, you'll get a flush for 4 points, 5 points if the starter card or cut card matches as well. I've made this mistake and missed out on points, so just double check before you assume that you really have a 0-point hand. Double check the flushes out of the way. We need to look at whose deal it is and decide on our strategy. It may seem like an obvious tip, but it will affect how you discard, and it's easy to forget when you're flustered by such like a junky hand. So if it is your crib, meaning that you have the deal, throw yourself something good, like 2 cards next to each other that might connect to make a run. If it's their crib, you want to aim to throw wide and balk their crib. This is, of course, a general rule for always, but it works for bad hands too. If you want to get advanced, you might want to check out the average tables for cribbage discards like those that Shell compiled. I'll put a link in the description. The Shell tables will give you great pairings and the average expected average that comes from those cribs, whether it's to your opponent's hand or your hand. So think about what the best ones are for you and the worst ones are for them. Don't have runs in a zero hand, but you want to keep the runs together. You might have 2 cards that are right next to each other. These are neighbor cards, and these cards are actually really good because of their potential to form a run from a cut. So let's look at an example of a 9-10. With a 9-10, we can cut an 8 or a jack and get points. Yes. But if those same cards are split by a missing one, such as this 8-10, you only have one option to fill in the middle of 9-10. So if you have neighbor cards, keep those together when choosing your discard. Tip number 3, count the winners or the losers. Now, if it seems pretty equal so far, there's a semi-quick trick to decide the potential of a hand, and that's to count the number of winners or losers from a cut. Winners are cut cards that add value to your hand that are going to add points, and losers are ones that add 0, and they keep you at 0. Or, losers can help the other crib too if it's not your hand, so you got to keep that in mind as well. Let's use an example here. Let's say you have the 4 cards ace, 2, 7, 9. How many winners and losers are there? Well, let's take a minute to think about it. Let's see, if we have an ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, these are all winners. If you do the math, adding the 15s or the runs or that kind of thing, all of those are going to be winners, those 9. And then you have the 10 cards, 10, Jack, Queen, King, and those are losers. So this hand has 9 winners and 4 losers. If you were making a choice between a comparative hand, and you notice that it had more winners or fewer winners, or more losers or fewer losers, then you would want to pick the one that works out best for you. And you can just count the winners, but sometimes it's faster to count the losers, which is why I bring it up. You could look at this ace, 2, 7, 9 and realize that, really the only thing that's a total loser in this hand are the 10 cards. So I've got 4 losers. Makes it just a little bit faster. Number 4, all else still being equal, or if you think that the gains are going to be minimal from your cuts, you want to consider keeping the powerful pegging cards. These are things like Magic 11s, which are cards that add up to 11, or even a special 16, and these are cards that add up to 16. Sometimes these cards work out to give you a 31 when your opponent has all 10 cards, or, you know, a 5 with all 10 cards. If a Magic 11 sounds unbelievable, like does it really make a difference, you've got to check out this detailed video that'll pop up right here in the eye, which is somewhere up there. You saw it. It should be there. Is it there? Okay, it's there. It'll give you all you need to know about Magic 11s. Also, watch out for a chance to trap a 5 or a jack. Players like to keep 5 or jacks. So if you have something like a 4-6 or a 6-7 or 10 queen or something like that, you might want to hold on to those cards on the chance that you'll get to trap their card and maybe get some pegs. Because you're pretty desperate at this point. Why not? And that's just good pegging play anyway. So, a next level tip is also, and this is like way advanced, but it's to look for cards that cover each other, like a 3 and a 9 or a 4 and a 7. And what I mean by that is if you lead a 3 and they pair it, 3, 3 is 6, you have the 9 that covers that pair, so at least you've got the 15 that gives you 15 for 2. And that way, you at least get some points out of it, and some was better than none, which is what we've got right now with these 0-point hands. Step 5, if you're still stumped, totally stumped, you still have no idea, nothing seems to be working out, everything seems to be even Steven, then there is one more golden tip I have for you, and it's just a simple rule of thumb, and that's that throw odds to your crib and evens to the opponent's crib. That seems really strange, but it really does work out. Why? Because you need an odd card somewhere to add up to 15. You can't add an even to get to 15. It's impossible. So if you only throw evens, and so does your opponent, that's great because they can't get a 15 if it's into their crib. If you throw odds and they throw evens, there's a decent chance that you could add to 15. And also, remember that we have 2, 4, 6, 8, but then we also have 10, Jack, Queen, and King. 8 of the 13 cards are even. So throwing those odds will give us some variety in the chances that something will work better if it's in our own crib, or evens if it's their crib. Of course, some people swear by this rule, but in my opinion, this is something to consider like in conjunction with everything else, or even like farther down the list. I think that your run potentials or even your Magic 11 potentials are a much more powerful indicator of the potential of your hand than just strictly odds and evens. But sometimes this works out great, and there are many great players that stick with it. So I'll leave that up to you. Go back to the example hand that inspired this video. What do we want to throw? As a reminder, here are the cards. Ace of Hearts, 3 of Clubs, 7 of Clubs, 9 of Diamonds, Jack of Hearts, and King of Diamonds. Now, let's go through the steps. Step 0, flush. No flush here. Step 1, whose deal, what strategy? It's our deal in this example, and let's assume it's the first deal of the game or something like that. So we'll want to help our own crib. So that means we're going to throw a couplet that could potentially be a run. So the Ace 3, the 7-9, or the Jack King. You may also want to check your shells tables or your discard averages if you have it, but let's assume that you don't and that all of these are pretty equal to one another, which is kind of sort of true. Step 2, keep runs together. So if we have any neighbor cards, those get a priority in staying together. But in this example, every couplet has a missing one in the middle, so as far as that goes, no clear answer yet. Step 3, counting the winners and the losers. All right, let's look at our 3 options. You can pause the video to practice if you want to count them up on your own, or you'll hear me say them and show them to you right now. Wait a second, that's not right. That's just a like button. Although, you are a winner if you hit that like button. Anyway, here's the real winners and losers one, and as you can see, the some of the hands have better hands, more winners in the hands, and some have slightly more winners in the crib, but really, we're still neck and neck here. All of them have 12 winners and 1 loser when the day is done. Now, there are more detailed ways of calculating expecting averages, which includes the percentage of unknown cards, but this is a quick way of doing it when you're in the middle of your gameplay and you don't have time to calculate all those odds to yourself, but it'll still work pretty well. Now, Pegging cards. We're looking for magic 11s and special 16s. So for the 11s, the only 11 we have is we have the ace and the 10 cards combined, which means that we might want to throw that 7-9, keep ace 3, jack king. That would be a magic 11. It's the weakest of the magic 11s, but it still works. Okay? 9 and 7 make a 16, but 16s are kind of harder to pull off, especially when you only have 2 cards. So it doesn't seem as strong to me. Now, as far as cards covering each other, the 9 does cover the 3. So if you kept the ace 3, 7, 9, and you let a 3, well, you wouldn't lead a 3 eventually because you're the dealer right now. So that doesn't make as much sense, but it could at some point if you had when you were leading after the first round of pegging. There are no 5 or jack traps here. Though you might want to consider holding the jack king just in case you have a chance to pair the jack in the hands, okay? But, so yeah, this is a rough hand. But when you look at it, when I'm looking at everything, I'm starting to lean towards the 7-9 toss or the jack king toss. The ace 3, 7, 9 gives us more low cards to kind of peg with, and if we toss the 7-9 and we keep the ace 3 jack king, we have a magic 11 in there, and we have that jack which we can hopefully hope to pair with and maybe get 2 points out of nothing. I'm personally leaning towards that 7-9 toss. As far as tossing the ace 3, 7-9 jack king is not a great pegging hand, although we are keeping the 9 and jack close together, so that means we can get that 10 cut in there. But like I said before, when we were looking at winners and losers, the winners and losers actually ended up working out evenly, so that benefit doesn't seem to be as strong. I don't like it for its pegging value as much, so for now, let's just remove it from the list, but don't worry, it's going to come back. It's time to do one more step. All right. So it's our deal. We get these cards. We're looking at evens and odds. That means we're looking at odds. A very slight advantage towards the odd cards. So if we look at the options we had left over, 7, 9, jack, and king, that means that 7, 9 is a slightly stronger discard in this regard. Okay? So if I take magic 11s and the overall equal number of winner-losers, and I'm looking at pegging, and I'm looking at the odds, I think 7-9 is one of the strongest tosses, okay? The ace and the 3 are also odds, though, so they'd fit for what we're looking for here. But let's put it back in. Let's put it back in for a second. So now it's back in for the odds. The pegging is not as strong, but because of the odds, if we bring the ace 3 back in as a toss, keep the 7-9, jack, king, I'm going to add one more fact to you. Now, if you have a strong knowledge of discard averages, you might know this already. Shell's tables tells us that the discard couplets we looked at have the following averages in their crib. Don't forget that link is in the description if you want to check it out yourself. So, as they are up here, we can see that by about a half a point, the ace 3 is expected to get a half point more in the crib. So, if that's what you want to bank on, that's totally fine. That makes the ace 3 a strong toss. Is that enough to convince you? Maybe. For some, that'll be enough. For me, I look at the pegging a little bit more too. Okay? So it's a close call all around. I think that ace 3 or 7-9 is the right toss of the two. So I would toss the 7-9. Others might toss the ace 3 because of its stronger crib chances. And you know what? The luck of the draw, literally in cutting the cards, will tell you if you were right or if you're wrong in this instance. Now, I also went to Cribbage Discard Pro, and I put it all in to Cribbage Discard Pro, which I'll put in the link as well, the description. And their expected average is only 0.1 more for the ace 3 than the 7-9 toss. So even in Cribbage Discard Pro, it's like neck and neck. So for me, that 7-9's pegging advantages when it goes to the crib, keeping the ace 3 jack king, keeping that is a little bit stronger for me. But if you don't believe me, you can test it out. I created a scenario on Cribbage Pro. The link is in the description. When you click it, it'll open up, and you'll get to play through this exact scenario. Play through it a bunch of times and see what works. See if the pegging works better one way. See if the overall cuts tend to help you another way. The truth of it is, if you play it 10 times, it's going to be luck. If you play it 100 times, then you might get to see some real data on that. But, you know, play around with it. Test it out yourself, of course. You know, the luck's always in the cards. Luck, a huge part of this game. But, you know, if you are dealt a bad hand, a zero hand, you at least have some idea now of how to go about making the best of a bad situation. So, if you found this helpful and you want to learn more about cribbage and pick up some tips, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the cribbage game-changing discussions that we have here on my channel. And please, keep on playing.